Guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and you are watching The Nerdy Grail. Now, this is a very long overdue video that I've been putting off for ages and ages and ages. Now, way back on, I believe it was early October, probably, I think it was like the 14th of October, I uploaded the first part in what I titled the Symbiote saga, which focuses on Peter Parker going through his symbiote black suit arc in various different TV shows, movies, and video games. And I did a video on Marvel Insomniac's Spider-Man 2, looking at his symbiote arc in that video game, and determining whether or not it was actually done well or not. And as I go through this series, I'm going to be looking at different variations of it and then probably coming together during the last one and determining which one I think is the truly the best, really, as I should say, the true best symbiote arc, because they've done it in lots of different ways. And Insomniac did it in a very, very interesting way, and it was done very, very well. A little bit rushed at times, but overall I think it was handled fairly well. But if you haven't checked out my video on that, the first one in the Symbiote Saga, please check that out, because I do go into a lot of detail about my thoughts on that symbiote arc. However, today we are going to be moving on to another variant of Peter going through his black suit arc, and is one that is very popular, not always for the best reasons, definitely for funny reasons. As in this video, I will be focusing on Spider-Man 3. The final in the Sam Raimi trilogy, starring Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker / Spider-Man. And yes, that means I will be talking about good old Bully Maguire in this video. Yeah, I'll be talking about Peter's black suit symbiote arc that he goes through in this film and determining whether or not I think it was actually done well or not. How will I be doing it in this video? Well, in the last video, I did it based on the design, I did it based on the gameplay, and I had a little look at the story. This time it's going to be a little bit different because it's not a video game. I'm going to change it up a little bit. The first category we are going to do is we've got to talk about the design of this black suit. Then we're going to have to talk about the story. You know, what does it actually do in the story, and the actual impact that it has on the characters within the film. And then finally, I'm going to just give you my final thoughts, sum up whether or not I think it was done well, whether it was needed within the story of Spider-Man 3, and then how does it compare, really, to Insomniac's Spider-Man 2? Do I prefer Spider-Man 3's interpretation, or do I prefer Insomniac's Spider-Man 2's interpretation? It's going to be a very, very interesting video. So I hope you stay with me right to the very end to hear my thoughts on Spider-Man 3. But let's waste no more time, jump straight into this video, starting with the design of the the Sam Raimi trilogy's black suit. So in this section, I'm going to be talking about the overall design of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3's black suit. And in some ways, there's both positives and negatives to be had about the black suit in this movie. I'll briefly go over some of the positives. Like, some of the positives is it's a very iconic suit. Like, whenever you think of the black suit in Spider-Man, usually one of people's first 2 to 3 picks is they instantly navigate towards the Sam Raimi suit, because it is just so iconic. That's why it's been put in a lot of the video games. It's in the Marvel Insomniac Spider-Man 2 video game because they had to put it in there. And it's a suit that everybody wanted to try out in the game because they thought it would be brilliant and perfect. And it is a really cool suit. You know, it is pretty much similar, though, to the classic red and blue suit in the Sam Raimi trilogy. It's just basically a black variant of that suit. Which in some ways is a good thing, because you can still see the similarities there, and it does make it accurate. Doesn't lead it to be too much of a change, and almost it's something that then Peter wouldn't really notice as much because it is still his suit. And you've got to keep in mind, in the actual movie itself, the symbiote actually does just go over the top of Peter's suit, so just then mimics the suit. So it would be a bit weird if it then changed it completely to look a bit more like how it does in other shows or in the comics. So it makes sense from a story perspective that it looks pretty similar. But then on the negative front, it does feel a bit lazy. There is only like one or two minor differences between the black suit and the normal red and blue suit. Like the spider logo on Spider-Man's chest is a little bit sharper. And some of like the eye shapes are a tiny bit different, but overall it is and does just feel like a simple recolor of the traditional red and blue suit, which is a bit disappointing. And I think from then a story perspective as well, unlike what we see in the Insomniac game, and what we see in other projects that I'm going to be looking at within this series, like I brought up in the last one, Spectacular Spider-Man. As we see in that, we see the suit change over time as Peter starts to lose more and more control of himself to the alien that is taking him over. Because the suit stays the same throughout the entire movie, more or less, which I'll delve into more in the story aspect, it means that the design stays the exact same, meaning that we don't really know the exact moment that there's a proper change for Peter in terms of the suit. It'd be nice if the suit reflected the change on Peter. But it doesn't really. The suit doesn't move along with that. It stays the same from the moment he gets it to the moment he gets rid of it. And so it does feel a bit lazy. But that could also be to do with the fact that originally Venom wasn't going to be in this movie, and Sam Raimi didn't really want to do anything to do with Venom or do the symbiote arc in the first place, so felt a bit forced to do it, and so maybe just rushed it for that particular reason. Who knows? But it does feel a little bit lazy, even though it's such an iconic design for the black suit. It is probably, if I'm being perfectly honest, one of the laziest of the symbiote suits. So it's very, very 50-50. It's definitely a Marmite one if you really want to delve deep into it, even though I know lots of people love it because of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. Hits people in the feels and it's so nostalgic. But I can't shake the feeling that they could have done a lot more with the suit, if I'm being perfectly honest. So if you want my honest opinion on the design, I would say I actually slightly prefer the design of Marvel Insomniac Spider-Man 2 because at least there's a change there. Whereas with the Sam Raimi one, it does just feel like just a colour palette swap, really, or just a recolor of his normal everyday suit, which is unfortunate, really. But that's my little conversation there on the design and my little thoughts on the design. Let's get into the meat and potatoes, though, of this video. Let's have a look at the story, the impact that the suit plays on the story, and we've got to talk about Bully Maguire, don't we? So let's jump straight into the story of Spider-Man 3's Black Suit Symbiote arc. So let's just delve straight into the story of Spider-Man 3. Now this is the final in the trilogy. We've just had the absolute amazing film that was Spider-Man 2. And so it comes back for a third and final installment. And they want to hit you hard with everything. There's loads of villains in this and loads of plot lines in this. But we're only focusing predominantly on the symbiote arc. So just a brief explanation of the plot. Peter's life is actually going quite well. At the start of this one, he's quite successful as Spider-Man and Peter Parker. He's managed to finally find that life balance. He's able to support his now girlfriend, Mary Jane, who's now being successful, starting her Broadway career. And he's able to now mix that balance. And Spider-Man is just about to be awarded the key to the city. So his life is going great. MJ's life is about to start getting on its feet now, finally. However, Harry, on the other hand, has now found out that Peter is Spider-Man after the events of Spider-Man 2 and still believes that Spider-Man, Peter, is responsible for the death of his father and so now seeks vengeance on Peter. So we have the introduction straight away of the villain of the New Goblin, which Harry takes over from his dad, Norman, who was played by William Dafoe, who does come back and cameo in this. But James Franco takes up the mantle of the New Goblin. But then we also find out that actually they arrested and found the wrong guy who killed Uncle Ben. And it's actually this new person called Flint Marko who was in jail and is now on the run. He's managed to escape from prison. Flint Marko, who we know becomes Sandman in this movie, played by Thomas Hayden Church. So yeah, he's on the run from the police. And so Peter now is on a mission to find this guy and finally bring him to justice. But then in the midst of everything, this meteorite crashes down to Earth and the alien symbiote that we later know as Venom lands on Earth, causing havoc in Peter's life as well, trying to cause a bit of friction between his friends. So everything starts to go a bit wrong. This film also introduces other characters like Topher Grace as Eddie Brock. We've also got Gwen Stacy gets introduced in this film as well, and Captain Stacy. But we also see lots of returning characters as well, like Dr. Kurt Connors, Mr. Dickovich, who is an amazing neighbour, and he's so funny. I love Mr. Dickovich. He's brilliant. J.K. Simmons, again, playing J. Jonah Jameson, is on top form. It's just great to see all these casts come back again and doing such a wonderful job. But yeah, overall, in terms of the symbiote arc, it starts off with, obviously, Peter... the symbiote actually attaches to Peter on one of his dates with MJ, follows him home, hangs around his apartment for a little bit, and then one night, while he's listening to some news reports trying to find Sandman, it then clings to his suit and he goes out swinging, finding out all about his new powers. One night on one of his little news reports, police reports, he finds that actually someone matching Flynn Marco's description is in the subway, so decides to put on the black suit because it gives him a strange boost in power and ability and brand new energy, and decides to go after Sandman that way. They have a massive fight in the subway, which is one of the best scenes in the movie, and he actually ends up, in his mind, killing Sandman. He's a bit too aggressive in the fight, and obviously this is to do with the symbiote. But before that, he's also showing more aggression because Eddie Brock, who's been following him to try and get pictures of him to take over Peter's job at the Daily Bugle, he smashes his camera, and so showing that how that symbiote is starting to affect him. After the Sandman fight, Peter starts to notice some changes in himself, where he changes his hairstyle and changes the sort of clothes that he wears, hence beginning the Bully Maguire arc, which is something else. I love that the fandom has determined it as Bully Maguire, because just some of the stuff that Peter comes up with and some of the things he does, some cheesy lines, some cheesy outfit choices, and everybody knows the Bully Maguire dance. Yuri Lowenthal even did his own version, where we got Bully Lowenthal, where he did it on one of the desks during like a Q&A panel for Insomniac Spider-Man 2, and it was funny and brilliant. I love it. It's cheesy, yes. Cringy, yes. But it's just so entertaining. But during his symbiote arc, his relationships with his friends are starting to get affected. Harry is suffering with amnesia after a little battle that they had, and he got a knock to the head. So he's trying to rebuild his relationship with Harry, but that's not going too well. The aggression, he ends up taking it out on MJ, so isolating himself from her. He snaps a lot, threatens some of his co-workers, harasses some of his co-workers as well. He even bullies J. Jonah Jameson into giving him a pay rise, asking him to double the money. And so it's quite funny to some degree, the confidence that he gets. But he has a final confrontation with Harry, where he ends up throwing a pumpkin bomb directly in his face, causing Harry's face to be completely scarred, showing that he's showing like no restraint, no really remorse for his actions. That's the symbiote clouding his judgment. But the final straw was later on in the film, just before he removes the symbiote. It's the final straw that makes him remove the symbiote, is he goes on a date with Gwen and takes her to a nightclub where MJ is now working after she unfortunately gets the sack from Broadway. She's working as like a club singer, and he literally brings Gwen there in order to make MJ jealous, which is something that Peter would not normally do, and he ends up accidentally hitting MJ, and that snaps Peter into thinking that something's wrong, and then he ends up removing the symbiote, and then that symbiote later on goes on to Topher Grace, Eddie Brock, to become Venom. Overall, how would I feel like it plays into the story? If I'm being honest, the symbiote doesn't actually play much into the story. Like, I'm not being funny, and some people may agree or disagree with me with this. Peter in this movie almost feels like he has the symbiote before he gets the symbiote. He makes some very dodgy choices before getting the symbiote. Like when he's getting the key to the city, he knows that MJ is there watching him and decides to kiss Gwen live on the stage, doing the upside down kiss that he shared with her in the first movie. And I'm just like, that is wrong, Peter. What are you doing? That is an absolute dick move. You shouldn't be doing that. So he's pulling dodgy stuff there and then. He also causes, obviously, Harry to get amnesia. Not on purpose, but he's quite thankful. And then he obviously lies to Harry and in order to keep his friendship together. So he's making some very dodgy choices. He's staying up all night, potentially seeking vengeance on Sandman, because we don't really know what his motives are. He's very angry all the time. And that's all before he gets the symbiote. So you don't really notice the changes. It slightly amplifies it, I guess. But also the problem I have with the symbiote arc is you don't actually see the symbiote that much. You don't get to see Peter in full-blown symbiote suit very much. You see it when he initially gets it and takes it for a joyride. You see it when he fights Sandman in the subway. And then you see it, and I'm talking about in full, with the mask on and everything, when he's actually then removing said symbiote. Between all then, it's just underneath his normal clothes. So he's just fighting as like emo Peter. So it's very, very disappointing. So you want to see that symbiote. And like I said, it'd be nice if that symbiote changed as the movie went on. So as you start to see Peter become more aggressive, the symbiote starts to maybe lose some of the webbing and start to turn into a bit of that comic book style a suit that we see in the comics and in other TV shows. We don't notice that change, and so I don't really think the symbiote plays a big role in this, if I'm being perfectly honest, because Peter's actions are pretty horrible before he even gets it. So overall, I don't think it plays much of an impact, and it definitely was a second thought. It was like an afterthought in Sam Raimi's mind, and that's very, very clear to see. The focus should have been on the New Goblin and Sandman. They just shoehorned in the black suit and then had to shoehorn in Venom because they've done the black suit. And that's simply all it is. Is it terrible? No. Was it needed? I don't think so. I think you could have easily done this movie without the black suit. So is it a little bit disappointing? Yes, unfortunately. And would I say it's better than Insomniac's symbiote arc? Well, let me pause this video and I will give you my final thoughts on the black suit arc in Spider-Man 3. So, final thoughts on Spider-Man 3's symbiote arc. Do I think it is better or worse than the Insomniac's symbiote arc? Unfortunately, I would personally say that Insomniac did it way better than Spider-Man 3. Just because they put a bit more detail into it, they had a little bit more time to cook and use it, and it wasn't felt like an afterthought. Whereas in this movie, firstly, you're limited by movie length, so there's not an awful lot you can play with. You've got about 2 hours where also it's not the core focus of the whole movie plot as well. So not only have you only got 2 hours, but it's not even the prime focus. You've got the New Goblin stuff, you've got the Sandman stuff, all thrown in there as well. Peter trying to juggle his social and Spider-Man life. It's the final of a trilogy. So, there's so much more to it than just the symbiote. If it was just the symbiote, then they might have been able to do it in a bit more detail. But it felt like an afterthought. It was rushed and felt a bit lazy. Like I said, the design of the symbiote suit, as you can see on this beautiful release that I managed to get, might I add, it is gorgeous. It's very, very similar to the red suit, as you can see there, as it switches over. It is almost just like a colour, just a different colour palette, really. With some minor changes, like the spider logo is a bit different, a bit sharper, the eyes are a bit sharper. But overall, it is pretty much the same. And I would love to have seen the suit change over time, because you don't really notice it changing Peter. And like I said, the movie's written in a way where Peter is sort of acting a bit like a dick from the get-go, let alone once he gets the symbiote. It's just amplified more with the symbiote. But you're supposed to actually see the change. You're supposed to see that Peter is really nice, really kind, really thoughtful. He would, put others first. He would pull his punches a little bit. And then when he gets the symbiote, you see that he's not pulling his punches. He's becoming more aggressive. He's saying horrible things. Whereas in this one, he's doing horrible actions and being a bit more aggressive before he's even got the symbiote. And then it just continues on. And also, why do we not get to see this amazing, because it is not a bad suit. It's lazy, but it's not a bad suit. Why can we not see the full suit a lot more in the movie? Why is it covered up by his regular clothes? I know we love Bully Maguire, but come on, people. We want to see the black suit in all its glory. It's just such a shame. And if I was talking about Venom, which I should have pointed out at the start, that obviously I wasn't focusing on Venom, like I did in Insomniac Spider-Man 2. These videos are just on Peter having the symbiote. But if I was to discuss Topher Grace Venom, I mean, compared to that Venom in there, it's another ballpark entirely. When I say an afterthought and just rushed and thrown in there, that Venom is rushed and thrown in there. No offense, Topher Grace. Your performance was fine, but the script didn't do you any favours, if I'm being perfectly honest. So what would I rate the Insomniac Spider-Man Black Suit arc? If I want to be generous, I'd give it a 5. A 5 out of 10. Middle of the road, not terrible, but not really great either, if I'm being perfectly honest. Like I said, rushed and lazy is how it felt overall. But that is going to be it for my review on Spider-Man 3's Symbiote arc. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, like it by giving it a thumbs up. Comment down below. What are your thoughts on Spider-Man 3's Symbiote arc? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you think it's okay? A bit like me. What do you think of the Insomniac one? And subscribe if you are new. Now, this is part 2 of the Symbiote saga. So we need to think about what's going to be part 3 of the Symbiote saga, because we've got lots more different TV shows, movies, and games to discuss. And I think it's finally time to do the one that I've referenced in both of these videos. I think for part 3 of the Symbiote saga, we got to do Spectacular Spider-Man. Now, this is one that I've been waiting to do for a long time. So stay tuned for when I eventually post that. But part 3 of the Symbiote saga is going to be on the Spectacular Spider-Man TV show arc for the symbiote suit. Until then, this is the Nerdy Grail signing off. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you all next time. Bye for now, everyone.